And boom, boom, boom.
Happy Friday, guys.
Yep. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Friday edition of the Manufacturing Ecommerce Success Series. I am so happy to be here today. I'm one of your co-hosts, Damon Pistolka. With me in the upper right, I've got Curt Anderson, the other partner in crime on this venture. So, Curt, go ahead and introduce our special guest of the day, man.
Damon, are you sitting down for this one, dude? And you better put on your seatbelt. This is, guys, welcome. Thank you, everybody. Gail, you're right here. Chris, Kevin, my friend Don, welcome, everybody. Happy Friday. So we have an incredible, amazing show today. We're going to dig right in. So we have our dear friend, Kelly Cudworth. And Kelly, welcome, dude. Thank you for taking time. I know you're super busy. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. This is great.
Okay, so let me share a little bit about Kelly. And now Damon knows Damon and Kelly are pretty tight, and we'll get into that in a minute. So I'm a little new to this party, new to this relationship, but Kelly is just a rock star, relentless entrepreneur. We have a great story here, extremely relevant for manufacturers on making that digital transformation. Kelly did it years ago. He's blown it up on with online marketplaces. He's in the hey, Dan Bigger just joined us. Welcome, Dan. So he is in the extremely challenging office supply business. He's the president of NuLeaf Office Solutions. And Kelly, did I catch this right? Are you 40 under 40 for, what was it, the Puget Sound Business Journal? Did you win that? Did I see that you won
that was a handful of years ago, but yeah, 2015. I was I think it was 15 around that time. Yeah. Nice. I was an honoree, yes.
Awesome. Well, congratulations. Well, I want to jump in. Could you please start off with a little bit about your business? Dad started your business, I believe, 1975 or 46-ish years ago. Dad's a vet, starts an office supply business downtown Seattle, and man, 46 years. Damon, think about it. I think like I probably have clothes that are 46 years old, but 46 years in business. When you think 4 out of 5 businesses fail in the first 5 years, Kelly's family has sustained for 46 years. Kelly, tell us a little bit. How did Dad get the business started? How did you come into it? And then we'll dig into e-commerce from there.
Yeah. So I think the only thing that's changed or stayed the same in 46 years is our legal name.
Yeah.
But, right. So Dad started the company 46 years ago. He came from the office supply industry on the other side, actually on the supplier manufacturer side. So he was a manufacturer's rep and then decided to flip and get involved on the resale side. And then obviously I grew up, with Dad running the company. I had no interest in it. When I graduated college at the time, Dad's the business model was selling toner. That was the business focus. Sure. We manufactured toner. And I came out of college thinking I was, going to rule the world. And I had no
the world, sure. We all were.
Manufactured toner reseller. So after a handful of years, it's kind of out on my own and, honestly learning business, just business in general, working sales, I got a better understanding of what Dad did. And so to have the opportunity to come in and basically, work for a small business and have potentially an opportunity to own my own business that I didn't have to start from scratch was something I just felt that I should explore. So I was interested in coming to work for Dad just from the aspect of, hey, entrepreneur mindset. We were really small back then. It was just a handful of us. And that's how I got in the business, and that was 16 years ago. And I took over as president about 7-8 years ago and took over the company 2 years ago.
Nice. Awesome. Well, congratulations. Congratulations to you and your family. What a great American entrepreneurial success story here. So let's just plow right into it. So office supplies, ubiquitous item, ultra competitive, brick and mortar is everywhere, major players. You can buy it at Walmart, anywhere. How did you guys survive early days of e-commerce? And talk about when did you have a tipping point or aha moment when you're like, hey, Dad, we've got to really step up our e-commerce game? Can you talk a little bit about that transition?
Right. I think day one when I came to work for Dad, my goal was e-commerce. We needed a website. I wanted a website. I think the advantage of me coming up with Dad early on was with some of my youth, I saw the value in web. I knew that people needed a website. We needed to go in our industry. My industry is traditionally and still is traditionally a bit old school. So just having a website in general at that time was, what is that? And then selling online, I come from a sales background, and anybody that, started in sales early on with the cold calls, knocking the door, the idea of generating leads easily online or selling something online where I don't have to like bend over backwards and drive 2 hours to make a pitch sounded pretty enticing to me. So I thought, hey, we should dive into it and see if this is a viable option. I think where the real transition came for us was working kind of in the federal government space. So we have a federal government contract. And then as going after government business, we really had to get detailed in data, products. We had to granular, figure out what products we can sell, what weights, freights, just to be competitive for these contracts, because you can probably appreciate in the government space, you have to be extremely competitive. Margins are thin, but volumes are there. And so we really leaned into that business model when I first started, because it was, we were able to take down some good sized business to good sized orders, but having to be on top of our data and our product and our catalog was extremely important. And through that, that's where we organically really started leaning into as many of our suppliers and manufacturers can to diversify as much of our product breadth as we could. So when I first started working with Dad, we had maybe 50 SKUs. And so the more SKUs and product we started to bring on and expanding our catalog in the government space, we saw by default our business grow. And so I think that really helped lay a base foundation for us to really kind of transition to the e-commerce space when we really wanted to focus on the e-commerce space. Very similar. You're working on your goal is high volume. Margins are going to be lean. It's a competitive marketplace out there. You're up against the big boys. You're not going to have the ad spend that everybody else is going to have out there. And so really kind of getting super granular on your data and your catalog and identifying where you can compete and have success was key. And so as we grew, the more we could negotiate with suppliers and manufacturers and bring on more product and then just continue to expand.
And what I love, like when you go to NuLeaf's website, and guys, I dropped Kelly's LinkedIn profile, his website, and there's a phenomenal video interview with Kelly and Amazon. He's done such a great job with Amazon that someone on the Amazon team did a nice interview. So check that out. Please connect with Kelly. But Kelly, when you look at your website, it's, you just practice what you preach. It's all about being customer centric. You have a line that you empower local businesses to thrive by making customers' lives easier. Boy, if we can dedicate ourselves to making customers' lives easier, we can build a really nice business. How were you able to do that in such a competitive market? I mean, you're talking, like you said, pricing, this product, yeah, I can find it anywhere. How did you guys stand out?
Well, I think, coming from our traditional door-to-door relationship, before we were really in e-commerce, and really, it's still, I think, a very solid case is, you have to have relationships with your customers. You need to understand their needs. You need to find that solution. So, when we grew, we diversified in different categories. We were selling, furniture to copiers to office supplies to, pet supplies, right? So each customer has a different need. And sometimes that's price, but as we started transitioning to e-commerce world, I think we really wanted to bring that same mentality over. But I think for us, the big thing was like, why are companies like Amazon and the big boxes having so much success on e-commerce? Is it all price driven? And yes, price, what we realized was price is important and you have to be competitive in price. But there's also other components that, we were taking for granted, which means accuracy on delivery times, not necessarily getting there next day or promising 2 days, which, if you can, great, but just accuracy, like making sure the customer feels confident when they place an order with you, they're going to get the product they order and it's going to arrive within an amount of time. They get good communication of that it's shipped. They get communication that's going to track. And then the one thing that was really tricky for us was the return side. If the customer wants to return a product, how do we do it? In my industry, traditionally on the B2B side, if a customer returns a product, you hit them with a 20% restocking fee, they got to send it back. Or it's a customer you work with all the time, so you have a problem. In the e-commerce world, it got a little trickier, especially when we were drop shipping it. So we had to look internally and figure out, okay, how can we balance our margins, our pricing to either absorb that or work with our manufacturers to receive that as well. And I think it's also, we looked at Amazon and said, okay, listen, everybody was complaining and still complains about the level of customer obsession that Amazon has. And I kid you not, it is an obsession to a fault at times. But they're the gorilla and they've set this bar so high And, my industry for so long would just complain, oh, it's not sustainable, and, it's not going to work, or they're going to get crushed. It's opening you up for fraud, which, it's there. But I realized pretty quick when I was in my customers' offices, as my product was arriving, an Amazon box was arriving, right? And so everybody was already on Amazon, and the expectation of customer service was hitting them, and they were bringing that and have brought that to the business world. So I had to take a hard look at it and say, listen, the consumer's expectation is what Amazon is. When you see Walmart and big companies like Nordstrom and all these huge, large companies following that model of customer obsession, we had to figure out operationally, how could we, get to that same level of expectation and service the customer. And going in the Amazon world was a good way for us to figure that out and raise our ability to provide that customer service expectation, and then bring that back out to our commercial customers and other platforms. So once we felt like we could hit that, then we really saw an uptick in our ability to service customers outside of just the Amazon platform. So that was really something that was a tricky transition. But I think the value that we brought to the e-commerce world was also that customer service engagement. When the customer's emailing us for questions, or they have questions on a product or return, I've got my own internal customer service team who actually comes from a sales background, now responding to these customers and handling those questions and quick responses, clarity, direction, available on the phone. Because on the e-commerce world, the consumer and the buyer, yes, they expect to get what they buy online, but there's also some hesitancy too, because just as much as the reseller can get hosed and attacked with fraudulent, buyers by doing the customer obsession, the buyers have had bad experiences buying online as well, right? We buy from a website, we don't know who it is, I can't get an email response, I call the 800 number, it goes to wherever, even on Amazon, right? Who is this reseller? Am I buying from Amazon, or am I buying from a reseller? So it became, my customer service team and I really had to come together and say, okay, really map out our processes. We really had to get analytical on not just, hey, just be nice to the customer and chat them about the weather. If, when the customer comes to us and this is the question or this is the issue, then where's the direct, fastest result of an answer? If A, then B, if C, then D. And we really mapped that out from a customer service standpoint, and having that team come from that kind of brick and mortar B2B side really helped us just kind of communicate clarity and quickly in the e-commerce side.
Right. That's phenomenal. Let me just share. And if you look at your reviews, and I know like that social proof, we talked about that, Damon, I know you're huge on that, and it's such a different concept for manufacturers. We just, they haven't been in like, in the review world, but let me just share this. NuLeaf has made the way we order supplies extremely easy. They are simply the best, providing next day delivery, 100% reliable. And when you look at the reviews, it's just off the charts. So like, what I love what you're doing, Kelly, is like you're building that culture internally and then putting that out there externally. And everything that you just mentioned, you just described a great story here. Not once did you mention price.
Right.
It's like going over the top, customer service, killing them. Now, Damon, I want to turn over to you, my friend.
Well,
so now I understand. I think you and Kelly know each other, right?
Yeah, we do. We do a bit.
David knows me probably more than he wants.
but
share a little bit on your perspective of this.
Well, I think really a couple things that stand out with this is Kelly's background in face-to-face sales really gives him the understanding of how that obsession with customers that Amazon has, how they can embrace that internally. Because when you look at his ratings, when you look at, and when I hear his on an ongoing basis, his concern over the ratings, making sure that the customers are happy, the way he does that is largely contributes to the online success. And it is that very thing that a manufacturer going from selling pallets, truckloads, train car loads of product to other big businesses don't have to really deal with right now. And it's one of the things that Kelly was doing already. Now they're just doing it at a higher volume with his team streamlined to do this, which I think is very cool. The one of the things that I would like to talk with Kelly about real quick though is you now are representing I don't know how many different manufacturers, thousand.
Oh, geez, probably in the thousands in regards to brands. And like
Yeah.
100 some odd thousand, more than 100,000 SKUs.
Yeah.
100,000 SKUs.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
probably a bit more than that.
And you started, and you said you Dad had built a nice business with 50, right?
50. Yeah, 50.
Isn't that
50
crazy?
right.
Yeah. Yeah. So the one thing that Kelly's companies had to do, and explain this a little bit, Kelly, is going from 50 SKUs to 100,000 SKUs, the systems, your processes, and everything. You've had to really think about that and refine everything internally to be very efficient while maintaining that customer satisfaction.
Right. I think that's the bridge to the e-commerce world, right? That's been part of our success, is that obviously there's that customer focus, and what happens is with those reviews, that transitions into data analytics and percentages, and the data analytics and percentages in the technical world. And I'm technical enough to be dangerous, but I have to lean into, if I'm not the best, I outsource the rest, right? So I have to lean into partners to help me with really the granular technical aspects of systems and software. But that's where that bridge of knowing your data, knowing your pricing, knowing the capabilities of your manufacturers and suppliers in regards to servicing what the expectation you're laying to your customer is, and then having the capability to track that analytics so closely. So, as we started onboarding more manufacturers, more vendors, we have to have the ability to say, great, we have a relationship with a new manufacturer. They're excited. They have product, but we have some specific things we need from them. We need clarity on catalog. We need clarity on SKUs. We need clarity on content. We need clarity on pricing, and not just pricing, but like shipping from all around the nation, clarity on inventory pricing, quantity discounts, all that stuff like that. And we need it in electronic format, right? Excel or spreadsheets, the whole 9 yards, because we have to be able to quickly analyze hundreds and thousands of SKUs, pricing, weights, DIMs, the whole 9 yards, and build out our strategy and our model, and then build that out for the multiple platforms we're on. Because I mean, obviously we talk about Amazon, that's the gorilla, but the value of Amazon for us has been building out our business on so many other platforms. We're on Walmart, where you have to get invited to be on. We're on Overstock, same thing. We're one of the first office supply dealers there. We're on Fisher Science. We're on the GSA. We're on the DoD Mall. So having all these different platforms, once we receive a catalog from a manufacturer or a supplier, we got to make sure internally we have the systems and the team. Damon, you're part of that team, to quickly analyze that data, find out, hey, can we be competitive on it? How are we going to get it loaded on the systems, and get it loaded on the system so that we can start getting traction as fast as possible? And then at the same time, being able to analyze those sales and or not sales within a week, month, quarterly basis, so that we can constantly manipulate it. So, I mean, that's become really the big complicated process for us is, how are we going to ingest all this data from so many different places, refine it to our secret sauce so that we can do what we do well, and then bring that out to not just one platform, but multiple platforms to give as much exposure to it as possible. And then identify, hey, how can we make ourselves unique? The customer service aspect, yes, that helps for uniqueness, because that's how we get return customers. Like on Amazon, we have multiple return customers. You have the business buyer. They're able to flag the supplier they like. So we see buyers coming back to us because they see the diversified and the cross catalog of products. But then there's the platforms that we might be new and exposed. So you have to play a little bit of pricing strategy, accuracy on content, and then, with the base of the years we've worked and making sure that we service our customers as much, those reviews will help us stand out. So lots of systems, lots of investment in the last few years of that software. And being the reseller, working with so many different manufacturers, so many SKUs, that investment justifies itself for us, so that we can quickly turn a manufacturer on or reseller, even if they're small, even if they can only receive POs via email, or for API, EDI integration, all that stuff like that, we can turn them on really quick. And so that's been something we realized years ago, but we've actually had to continually massage and build off of as we grow.
Perfect. So we have a question for you, and this is from our dear friend Chris, president of Gen Alpha in Wisconsin, and she asked this: do you give your vendors a template to follow to help you digitize each SKU, or do you accept vendor catalogs in any format they provide? Curious how supportive the supporters have been helping you to be successful digitally. That's a great question, Chris.
Yeah, Chris, that's a good one.
So I would say first, give us whatever format you have. We get them in multiple different formats, preferably Excel, right? Because we have SKU, title, description, and then as much detail on the product as possible. But if they want a format that we would prefer, yes, we can turn around. And it basically just be an Excel file with a handful of headers and columns. And again, it's just the product information: name, title, description, weights, dimensions, costs,
graphics.
Multiple, volume discounts if possible. That's one thing that we really strive hard. I think that we've brought value to a lot of our resellers that I think we stood out, at least in my industry, the OP industry, but has allowed us to expand in other industries is, Damon can attest this. We target the quantity buy, right? I mean, in the e-commerce world, what we found that was tricky is we're used to the business buyer. That's our goal. That's who we leaned in on. That's what our industry supported. But by default, you're going to get that retail buyer, that home user buyer. And then when the pandemic hit, I mean, man, that just skyrocketed, right? That took where e-commerce was going to be in 10 years and dropped to here today. And so that's been some of the negotiation with our suppliers. But with the business side, as much information as we have, or the ability for a vendor to provide quantity discounts, because obviously, hey, if you're selling me one at a time and shipping one at a time, there's a little bit more. You might not be able to get me an aggressive price. But if we get into quantities of 5, 10, 15, 20, right, and you can give me a bit of a discount on the price, and then freight, that's when we can play the freight game too, because a 1 pound item by itself is going to cost by default, like let's say $8. But if I have 5 of those 1 pound items, then that freight load goes down dramatically, allowing me to be more aggressive. So our strategy online, depending on what platform you're selling on our website, we have quantity discounts, always playing the quantity discounts, kind of the Costco game. Hey, you can buy one over here at your grocery store at Safeway, but you go to Costco and you get it in bulk, right? Sure. So we're giving the customers online that option. You can buy the one or you can buy the bulk. And then the nice thing about Amazon and Amazon Business, which we really didn't do, there's a lot of strategies that we can play, we can not only show quantity one, but we can by default show quantity discounts, but then we can also MOQ. So if a vendor has a tough time saying, hey, we can't give you as singles, well, we can MOQ it, which means MOQ minimum order quantity, which means they have to buy it in packs of 5, 10, or 15, 20, or we'll create an actual product page of a pack quantity for that. So we'll get really strategic on how we bring it to market. But what we just need to know is, obviously content, the pricing, and if you can drop ship, that's great. If you're drop shipping, you got to know what your freight's going to be, because that's going to help and be important to us, because we've had it where we've been told, hey, here's what your freight's going to be, but it comes back and it's different and everybody's kind of scrambling. We can help with that. I mean, if we have a manufacturer supplier come to us, we can help with that. And we also know when we start with them, we'll start, baby steps. We'll get aggressive to move volume because we need data. Without data, it doesn't mean anything. I can throw up 100,000 SKUs all over the place, but if I don't get any sales, with win, lose, or draw from a profitability standpoint, I don't have information to know what I can do and what strategies I can apply to be successful. So we'll go in and we'll get aggressive, and we'll make a margin, but we'll get real thin on a margin so we can receive data. That's what we've seen. We've loaded files before and found, oh my gosh, we actually lost money on these SKUs, And at first it's like, but then it's like, hey, let's take a second here and breathe. What sold and at what price did it sell at, right? So then we can go, okay, we know this product is very popular. It tells us, hey, people are buying this quickly and fast, regardless if we may be it or not. That's good information for us. Whereas over here, this product didn't move. So then we can isolate that category or that product and say, okay, how can we tweak it? We know it's a popular item. Can we get competitive on the singles? Maybe, maybe not, but we can definitely get competitive on the quantities. And our vendors and suppliers like that model because our average order size on Amazon and all these platforms is traditionally higher than most of my competitors or the others in my industry, my peers. Our average order units per order will be like anywhere from 5 to 10. Average order size will be more. And suppliers and manufacturers that are supporting us on a drop ship side, they appreciate that because it's probably easier for them, or they'd prefer to ship pack quantities rather than a bunch of singles.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Dude. So this is just amazing. Look how sophisticated this system, this process, this thriving business that you've built. Let's go back in time 7 years ago. So we target manufacturers. This whole, this little COVID thing came along, changed their world. They're now thinking, oh geez, I was hoping to ignore e-commerce. Now I guess I can't.
Right.
Think back to yourself 7 years ago when you really had that tipping point, that aha moment that you shared with me earlier. What advice, how did you think, you're here now, but think back to where you were 7 years ago.
Right.
What's some advice that you would share somebody just starting out, or what are things that you wish you would have maybe done a little bit differently, how you approached, hey, we're going to sell 3 SKUs of toner to now you're selling 100,000 SKUs
Right.
on marketplaces. How did you get here?
Well, the first thing I would say is just jump in. I mean, you got to just jump in, don't be nervous of it. You got to put the work in. Know your data. That's the first thing. You got to have your data. You got to, based on the question, like, how would you like, your digitize your SKUs? If you don't have that, start building that out. Understand your product and your price and your costs right from the get-go. Some of that was painful work, like as being the president of the company, and even today, even before I got on this call, I'm just going through an Excel spreadsheet, and just eyeing descriptions versus descriptions. I'm like, this is the worst work in the world. Why can't I get an intern to do this? But I know my industry, my product better, so I'm the best one to do it. So I have to put my ego aside and say, I'm not bigger than the work, and just get into it, right? That's number one. Number two is find partners that, or like, I would say like someone like me, right? Hey, find a reseller or somebody else that's doing it, engage, network, ask questions, see if they might have solutions or ideas. I mean, thinking of everybody in this meeting right now, if you're a manufacturer supplier, I'm a reseller, right? I mean, in that name is sell. I want to sell. I'm not making product. I'm trying to sell product, right? So I'm more than happy to hear any product that we can bring on, because quickly someone like me can expand a manufacturer supplier's catalog almost instantaneously into multiple, not just Amazon, but into multiple channels. And then we already have a brand base as a supplier that they can buy from. So, work with some resellers, understand there's going to be an investment. If you're going to build out a website, understand that it's going to be an investment, and take the branding aspect of that seriously. I mean, when you're building out, if you're getting in the e-commerce channel, comes back to that first thing we said, that customer service. Who are we? So I think that can get kind of foggy when you're just trying to list SKUs and sell product on these channels and platforms, but you still have to have your brand and your story kind of really nice and tight. Your content, whatever your landing pages are, your explanations. Make sure you understand your return capabilities, because that's just, a huge thing with an online. They want to be able to return it. They don't want to be able to be charged for it. Obviously, there's variables if it's damaged or if they damage it. There's things, you can get, into that. And you got to find the right e-commerce platform that's going to work for you. There's a lot of them out there. But I think, when it comes to the branding and the skinning and the design and the whole spiel, all that's important. But what's going to be key is, okay, that data of your SKUs, right? I think I would start there and understand your product and understand your product content and understand your pricing and how you're going to go to market with your strategy of pricing, shipping, and returns, and then focus on that branding side. Because I think what we did is we spent a huge amount of time rebranding, which was good for us, but we did that before we really had our go-to-market strategy. When we rebranded, we should have rebranded the whole aspect, not just our name, not just our title, not just a really cool looking website, not just Facebook page, but we should have focused on internally on our operation as well, and our pricing and our product as well. So that when we flipped our rebrand, you're like, hey, we're here. And it was crickets. We're like, why doesn't anybody care about my new cool logo? Right. So, because I wasn't really bringing a new strategy to them. All I did was, change my color and my logo. So, really get to know your product and your content and how you can achieve shipping or FBA success from a dollar standpoint, then bring that into the e-commerce world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things too, Kelly, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but your experience on the platforms as a reseller for a manufacturer there today, looking at should I go on Amazon? Should I go on one of these platforms? You could be, or not you, but resellers in general, or you could be a way for them to get onto a platform much faster, because if they can provide the data, if they can handle the normal, take an order, ship an order kind of thing, you can get them up and running much faster than someone else. And you already have existing customer base that are coming to you on these platforms.
Right. And I've seen this with manufacturers that we've worked with in the past. Sometimes, obviously, you want to control your brand. It's your product. That's your baby. That's your business, right?
Mhm.
So I can see anxiety. Why, having resellers resell or going to Amazon, I want to make sure my product and my pricing doesn't get cannibalized, right? So, I think absolutely there's always value for a reseller out there, regardless if you're going to take it on yourself or you want to partner. Even if we're listing there at the same time, all I'm doing is exposing a whole different channel of customers and maybe e-commerce channels than you're doing. And then at the same time, what's your goal? Maybe your business model makes sense. Hey, we have a department that can focus on building this strategy and what the lift it takes to get on the e-commerce and the customer service. We need to support it. And then we have the team to focus on doing what we do, is make our product and make a quality product and make it the best product in the world and focus on our brand, right? So if you have that balance, great. But if you don't, how much do you want to lean into these resources to build on these platforms when you've got a reseller like me who can turn it on real quick? At the same time, having a relationship with those resellers is key. We want that relationship, a good relationship with our manufacturing distributors, because we want to make sure that we know if there's changes coming, new product coming, or if there's restrictions in certain areas. That's important. Also, we want them to know who we are, so that when we're out there selling, we're representing them right. They're excited about us. But as a brand owner on these platforms, you have control of your brand. So you can actually choose who can resell and not resell. So you can still, I guess, police and monitor and control your brand, even with resellers. I've seen some manufacturers get nervous about that because they're like, well, we won't know who's reselling our product. But if you don't know who's really selling your product, then, that's, kind of from the start, you need to have that relationship with the reseller. So, you can pick a handful and establish those core relationships. And then, that not only are they're going out there, but who's reselling your product, so you can keep a good handle on your brand and your IP.
Yeah. I also want to bring up. Go ahead, Curt.
Hey, just real quick, we have a question from our friend Don up the road in Alaska, and Don has has a patent on a fishing lure, and phenomenal product. And his question to you, Kelly, is: do you resell for startup manufacturers? We manufacture a fishing lure and started in 2020, not very big yet, just starting out. So kind of two questions there. Advice for Don, just kind of starting out, and you're in office supplies. I don't know if that'd be a good fit, but what advice would you share with Don as like searching resellers?
Well, first of all, we're selling pet supplies at this point. So,
you got to connect with Don then,
we
right?
sell, on the platforms, it doesn't matter. So, fishing lures. So, first things first is content, right? You have your product, you have your SKU. So we need to understand, hey, what are your part numbers? Do you have UPC codes? If you don't, you got to get UPC codes. Do you have your brand built out? Do you have your content, name, description, et cetera, right? So that's key. So we have to have the product. The other thing is, when we go to market on Amazon, if it's a new product, it's a new brand, to really get some traction, there's a lot of different things you can do. But in the Amazon world, which is a great start, is once you have your brand registered and those UPCs registered, you want to make sure you register that brand with Amazon, because then now you have control over those product pages. And the ASIN is the Amazon serial identification number. So Amazon always creates their own part numbers. So you'll have your part number. It might be ABC123. That'll be your SKU. On Amazon, they create their own. So by just making sure that you have all of that buttoned up and getting that registered to Amazon, I would say is your first step. Once you have that done, then we can always build ASINs without that and list them without that. But if it's a new product and it's new to the market and you're trying to get exposure and you're in the fishing lure category, you're going to need to get some rhythm and some momentum going with getting that brand and that product exposed out there a little bit. So you're going to need to do that. But then working with a reseller like me, I can take that and I can then also help push that out onto Amazon and play the different pricing strategies and skill sets that we know. But then we can also bring it into our other markets, and then we can run campaigns for that. So it wouldn't be just you, hey, you have to invest in building this out and run this campaign for it. We could do it on our own site, on our own platforms. We've got thousands and thousands of contacts already in newsletters. We've got our own social media. So, having that content and the SKU data together is key. And then, making sure you get that registered on Amazon gives you control, but then someone like us can really push a campaign for that. So I don't know if I'm answering the question. I'm going around circles.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah. But yes, we can help. We can absolutely help. Yeah.
So on LinkedIn too, Bonnie wanted to ask, Bonnie Strominger listens, great contributor. She says, do you believe smaller innovative categories have a tougher time in the beginning?
I would say, yeah. I mean, it depends on the category and the product and the competition, right? Because if it's a very popular category, like, Sharpie pens or pens, for example, you've got a lot of product out there and a lot of competition, and a lot of big boxes really pushing, some funds towards the campaigns. But at the same time, 2021, I think there's more opportunity for success for a smaller product and category and brand than there ever has been. And I think that's where getting smart about your strategy and where you can find your wins early on is important. So I would say there's absolutely opportunity out there. Some of that strategy, if it's not, actually Amazon, because Amazon, you can run your ads and do that. So it's a little bit of investment to get the brand going, but there's a lot of strategy you can do on social media, on Facebook, and on your own website. And honestly, with, in the e-commerce world, I mean, I think about it as my own self as a consumer. Everybody's always looking for something unique, something different, right? And so people are searching more and more for products online. Yeah. So I think this is a great time for that small manufacturer, niche, a product to really be able to shine more than it has in the past. Some of the competition isn't necessarily brand push. It might be like one of my competitors, right? I think of like, a Lemar Pet Supplies or a Staples, right? These guys are monsters. And so they're just pushing ads and marketing for their company as a whole, or certain products and brands underneath them, right? So if you're unique against those brands, you might have an opportunity to stand out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And lo and behold, I just have one of Bonnie's right here, Damon. So this is her little catchy product. So Bonnie, we love you. Here's your product right here. So Damon, did you have a question that you were going to fire out?
No, one thing though, we're getting close to time here where we got to jump off, but I wanted to two things. One, thanks for being here, Kelly, but tell us a little bit about the charitable organization you run. I think this is something that's really cool about your company, and I always feel good when I can support and buy products from you because of what you do with your charity.
Right. Well, I'm an active cyclist, so it really started about 10 years ago. We started just doing a bike event. I mean, this sounds bad, but most of my buddies are golfers and they're not cyclists. So I was looking for an excuse to get them on a bike and then punish them up a hill or two. But we all got together and just, started doing this fun little bike activity and to raise money for a local nonprofit. And then as, I grew in business, I realized, hey, cause marketing can be such a great thing to parallel with your brand and your business, because then your customers feel like, hey, you are involved in the community. So we decided, hey, we're going to make this more strategic. And so we gathered, I reached out to a number of local small business owners and executives in our area. And the one thing as a small and mid-sized business that I can appreciate is we don't have huge budgets to create a massive cause brand or like the Amazon Smile thing. And what I found personally was when I would engage in some of these nonprofit activities or these luncheons where they ask you for money, I never really felt like I was connected to it or I was making an impact. And my own personal story is we adopted our daughter from Congo, Marie, going on 6 years ago. And so through that process, we realized it doesn't take a lot of money to make a major impact in areas that are in need, whether it be, orphans in Africa or foster kids here in Treehouse. Like anywhere from like $1,000 to $20,000 can go a long way. It doesn't have to be this $1 million big push. And all these small businesses, my associates on New Hope Street is the name of the organization, newhopestreet.org, nuhopestreet.org. We all realize, hey, you know, we feel like we want to make an impact and have a cause that we can promote to our community, our employees, our families, our customers. So we all rallied together, started New Hope Street. We're a pass-through nonprofit, and every single one of us brings some sort of level of skill set to the table, not just only finances, but like we've got a design firm, CMOS Studios, which is amazing. They're a partner. We've got a sign company. We've got a coffee company. We've got myself. So we all bring different resources together. And we've taken my bike event, and now we're on our 4th event. It's called Spoke to Ride. It's June 26th. And every event we do, we have bike events, running events. We have a polar plunge until COVID hit. That was a lot of fun. Every event is really catered to support different nonprofits. So, you know, we look for different local or just national nonprofits that are focused on helping primarily children or families and children in need. And that's kind of a general statement. But what we really do is we look for those nonprofits that don't have the same resources that big companies have or big nonprofits have. They don't have a huge budget. They might have a small, you know, team. They might be all volunteers, but they are the ones that are doing that work in the community. And our beneficiary this year is Trail Youth Coffee House, which helps troubled teens and suicide teens. And especially now with COVID, it's such a major issue. And so we realize, hey, they don't have massive resources to design and budget and fundraise. And they might not have a Kelly Cudworth out there who's hustling all his partners like Damon for a $500 sponsorship or something like that. And so we come to them and say, hey, we want to put on this bike event. We want to promote you. And then we also want to raise the funds and give you these funds. And I found that our board of other business owners, they just have I mean, the excitement for over the years has just been so amazing, more than I can anticipate. It's turned out to be much bigger and a little bit more work than I anticipated because of the excitement. But I realize there's so many business owners and executives that just want to get involved and figure out a way they can give to these small organizations. So that's become a big part of my life and also a big parallel of my companies as well.
Wow. God bless you, man. That is so admirable. I saw that. I'm glad you brought that up, Damon. That was on my list to talk about. So Kelly, wow. I had super high expectations as always, man. Damon, we're just so blessed with just amazing guests. Kelly, you're absolutely crushing it. I know you and Damon are working closely together. I hear about your progress frequently from Damon. And so hats off to you. What a great e-commerce success story. Kudos to you and your family. What a great story. Damon, I'll turn it over to you, my friend.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Kelly, for being here today. Thanks, Bonnie, and the other people that are watching us there on LinkedIn Live. Love to have you there. Bonnie, awesome comments throughout there. But we're going to shut down on LinkedIn Live here. We're going to finish up and on Remo and go from there. But we will be back here again next week. And what do we have next week lined up, Curt?
So a couple exciting things. So we're doing a great workshop on Wednesday with Fuse Hub. That's the New York MEP. It's a 3-hour hands-on workshop. So we have that going on this Wednesday. I'm posting it all over LinkedIn. And then next Friday, we have Lori Hybe, who is just an absolute marketer, manufacturing marketing all-star. That was easy for me to say.
Yeah.
So, Kelly,
all
again,
right.
Thank you, man. What a privilege connecting. Guys, have a phenomenal weekend. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
You bet.
Thanks, guys.